Namaskar, this is Shivangi Mukherjee and you're watching another episode of Bharat, The Forgotten Chapters. August 1947. India was about to become independent, but before the celebrations could begin, one province was already burning. Punjab. It was being torn apart by three communities: Hindus, Muslims and Sikhs, each convinced that they had the strongest claim over the land that they had called home for centuries. Punjab wasn't just another province, it was the birthplace of Sikhism, the breadbasket of North India, and the gateway through which almost every other major invader had entered the Indian subcontinent. And now the fate of this ancient land rested in the hands of a British lawyer who had never even visited India before 1947. Cyril Radcliffe was given just 5 weeks to decide where the border would run. Imagine that. The British spent nearly 2 centuries creating India's problems and then expected one man to solve them in barely 40 days. To understand why Punjab witnessed the bloodiest chapter of partition, we first need to understand what Punjab looked like in 1947. According to the 1941 census, Muslims formed the majority with around 57% of Punjab's population. Hindus made up nearly 30%, while Sikhs accounted for roughly 12%. On paper, that made the Muslim League's argument appear straightforward. If Muslims were the majority, Punjab should naturally become a part of Pakistan. But demographics told only half the story. Economically, Punjab looked completely different. Most Muslims lived in the western countryside and worked as cultivators. Hindus and Sikhs, meanwhile, dominated commerce, banking and industry in major cities, especially Lahore and Amritsar. By the 1930s, 108 out of Lahore's 106 registered factories were owned by Hindus and Sikhs. Their commercial turnover was nearly 8 times greater than that of Muslim-owned businesses, and they paid a significantly larger share of provincial taxes. Much of the urban property, banking sector and wholesale trade was also controlled by non-Muslim communities. Even agriculture wasn't as simple as religious numbers suggested. Sikh farmers were among Punjab's most productive landowners. In central Punjab alone, they contributed nearly 46% of the province's land revenue. At the same time, many Muslim farmers in western Punjab were heavily indebted, with much of their debt owed to Hindu and Sikh moneylenders. By 1937, Punjab's agricultural debt had reportedly risen to 19 times the province's annual land revenue. So while Muslims possess demographic strength, Hindus and Sikhs held much of Punjab's economic power. That meant whoever lost Punjab wouldn't simply lose territory. They would lose industries, farms, businesses, tax revenue, and decades of accumulated wealth. For the Sikh community, however, the stakes were even higher. This wasn't merely about land. It was about survival of their religious identity. Punjab was the homeland of Maharaja Ranjit Singh's empire and the cradle of Sikh history. Their farms, military traditions and institutions were rooted in this land. Most importantly, some of Sikhism's holiest shrines, including Gurdwara Nankana Sahib, the birthplace of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, and Gurdwara Kartarpur Sahib, where Guru Nanak spent his final years, lay in western Punjab. If the province were divided on religious lines, these sacred sites could end up inside Pakistan. For Sikhs then, that was not merely a political issue. It was an emotional and civilizational one. The political crisis deepened after the Cabinet Mission Plan of May 1946. The British proposed grouping Punjab with other Muslim-majority provinces in a federal arrangement. The Congress opposed this grouping because it believed that it would weaken India's unity. The Akali leadership headed by Master Tara Singh and Gyani Kartar Singh feared that Sikhs would permanently find themselves under a Muslim-majority administration. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, on the other hand, was quite happy because this meant a stepping stone towards Pakistan. Consensus collapsed, communal distrust deepened, and Punjab became increasingly polarized. By 1947, Lord Mountbatten arrived as the last Viceroy of India with only one goal: to release India from being a colony as quickly as possible, as World War II had economically weakened Britain. So on 3rd June 1947, he announced the plan that he would divide British India. Punjab would be partitioned, and a Punjab Boundary Commission would decide exactly where the new border would run. Cyril Radcliffe was heading this commission. someone with no experience administering India, no understanding of Punjab's social fabric, and no first-hand knowledge of its geography. Yet this British barrister was now expected to decide the future of nearly 30 million people. The commission began hearings in July 1947. Representing the Muslim League were Justice Deen Muhammad and Justice Muhammad Munir, while Justice Meher Chand Mahajan and Justice Teja Singh represented Congress and Sikh interests. Predictably, every side came armed with maps, census data, and legal arguments. The Muslim League insisted that boundaries should follow Muslim majority districts. Justice Meher Chand Mahajan countered that Punjab could not be divided solely by population figures. He argued that cities like Lahore and Amritsar had been built economically by Hindus and Sikhs, who owned more than 75% of Lahore's commercial establishments. Sikh farmers also controlled vast districts of fertile agricultural land across eastern Punjab. Most importantly, Mahajan reminded the commission that Nankana Sahib, the birthplace of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, was sacred to Sikhs and could not simply be dismissed as another point on the map. Then came perhaps the most contentious questions of all. Lahore. Demographically, Lahore had a Muslim majority. Economically, however, much of its trade, industry, and commercial wealth belonged to Hindus and Sikhs. The country was not just Punjab's largest urban centre, it was its cultural and intellectual heart. But Radcliffe ended up giving away Lahore to Pakistan. He later said that he gave away Lahore to Pakistan because Pakistan had no major cities to work with. Imagine the logic there. But why did India not stop this from happening? Here's why probably. Muhammad Ali Jinnah enjoyed far greater access to Lord Mountbatten than most other political leaders involved in the negotiations, and Radcliffe directly reported to Mountbatten. Ironically, despite receiving Lahore, Jinnah was still unhappy with the final reward. He believed Pakistan had been denied territory it rightfully deserved, particularly Gurdwara, which gave India a direct land route to Jammu and Kashmir. If Gurdwara went to Pakistan, India today might have been cut off from Kashmir. But while the world's attention remained fixed on Lahore and Gurdwara, another battle was quietly unfolding over Ferozpur and Zira. A battle that would determine not just Punjab's future, but India's control over water itself. If there is one reason that India today controls Ferozpur headworks, if Rajasthan's canal system isn't dependent on Pakistan for its water, and if India retained control over one of Punjab's most strategic irrigation networks, the credit doesn't first go to politicians. It goes to engineers. Because while everyone else was busy drawing borders on maps, these men were studying rivers and canals. They understood something that many politicians had overlooked. In Punjab, whoever controls the water controls the land. Initially, there was every possibility that Ferozpur and Zira would become a part of Pakistan. On purely demographic grounds, Pakistan appeared to have a stronger case. According to the figures before the Boundary Commission, Ferozpur had a Muslim population of around 55.2%, while Zira was nearly 65.2% Muslim. If the commission strictly followed the principle of majority population, both tehsils were expected to go to Pakistan. But Kuwar Sen, the chief engineer of the princely state of Bikaner, saw something others didn't. He realized that if Pakistan gained control of Ferozpur headworks on the Satluj River, not only eastern Punjab but also the Bikaner state would become dependent on Pakistan for irrigation water. Millions of acres of fertile farmland would effectively rely on another country to keep their fields alive. Then on August 8, 1947, Punjab's chief engineer, Swaroop Singh, reported he received disturbing information that Ferozpur was indeed likely to be awarded to Pakistan. The alarm bells rang immediately. Kuwar Singh acted without delay. He approached diplomat K.M. Panikkar, who immediately informed Maharaja Sadul Singh of Bikaner about the looming crisis. The Maharaja instantly understood what losing the headworks would mean. He even warned that if Bikaner's vital water interests were ignored, the state might have to reconsider its political future and join Pakistan instead. And this dramatic warning got New Delhi's attention. Panikkar and Kuwar Singh then reached out to Jawaharlal Nehru and Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. So on August 11th, New Delhi reportedly argued before Mountbatten that no territory east of the Satluj should be handed over to Pakistan, stressing that surrendering Ferozpur would be a strategic blunder with long-term consequences for India's water security. What happened next remains one of the most debated episodes of partition. The Radcliffe Award, which was expected to be announced, was suddenly delayed. When the award was finally published on 17 August 1947, that is 2 days after India had already become independent, the map had changed. Ferozpur, Zira, and the Gang Canal region remained with India. Whether that decision was influenced by political intervention or strategic necessity continues to be debated by historians. But one thing is beyond dispute. Without the timely intervention of Kuwar Singh and Swaroop Singh, India's western water security might have looked very different today.
Dr. A.N. Khosla also largely contributed to this feat.
But while borders were still being negotiated in Delhi, ordinary Punjabis had already begun paying the price. Communal violence had erupted months before the independence. British journalist Ian Stephens famously described Punjab as a smouldering volcano. Districts such as Rawalpindi, Attock, Multan and surrounding regions had already witnessed widespread killings, arson and forced displacements even before the Radcliffe Award was made public. Entire neighborhoods were emptied as fear spread from one district to another. Realizing that the situation was spiraling out of control, the British administration attempted to restore order. So on 10 July 1947, Lord Mountbatten approved the formation of Punjab Boundary Force, which consisted nearly 50,000 troops organized into 5 infantry brigades and 27 battalions, commanded largely by British officers, but comprising Hindu, Sikh and Muslim soldiers. Its sole purpose was to maintain peace while Punjab was being partitioned. On paper, it appeared to be an impressive force. In reality, it failed almost immediately. The violence spread across hundreds of villages simultaneously. Both communities accused the force of favoring the other side. Troops were too few to protect the enormous refugee columns moving in opposing directions, and law and order collapsed faster than the administration could respond. Even Mountbatten reportedly admitted that the force was unable to control the situation. As a result, on 29 August 1947, barely weeks after its creation, the Punjab Boundary Force was dissolved, and responsibility for maintaining order passed to the newly formed Indian and Pakistani armies. Imagine creating a force specifically to stop partition violence, only for partition violence to outlive the force itself. Perhaps the darkest symbol of Punjab's partition was the refugee train. These trains were supposed to carry frightened families to safety. Instead, many became moving graveyards. According to historian Kirpal Singh in his book Partition of Punjab, throughout August and September 1947, refugee trains travelling in both directions were repeatedly ambushed, passengers were massacred, women were assaulted, railway coaches were sprayed with bullets, and in several instances, trains reached their destinations carrying only the dead. Thousands of refugees spent days trapped inside these trains without food, water, or medical aid, as the administration struggled to respond. The horror extended far beyond the railway lines. Entire villages vanished overnight. One particularly chilling incident on conversion out of many occurred in Kamokin, Gujranwala district, as documented in the Book of Partition of Punjab. A police officer reportedly gathered the local non-Muslim population and declared that Kafirs needed to either accept Islam or be killed. This was no longer merely communal violence. It had become a complete breakdown of civil authority. In several places, even those entrusted with maintaining law and order were either unable or unwilling to protect civilians. The refugee crisis soon overwhelmed both newly independent nations. Officials initially estimated that perhaps 2 million people would cross the border. They were catastrophically wrong. Nearly 8 million people migrated across Punjab in one of the largest human movements in recorded history. Around 4 million Hindus and Sikhs fled towards India, while a similar number of Muslims traveled in the opposite direction towards Pakistan. Governments kept creating new organizations in the hope of restoring order. On 25th August, East Punjab established another security force to protect refugees. On 4th September, the military evacuation organization was set up in Amritsar to organize and escort Muslim refugee convoys safely into Pakistan. Pakistan created similar arrangements on its side of the border, but by then, the machinery of violence had become too large to contain. And despite these new organizations, the massacres continued. For the Sikh community, however, partition left another big wound, one that remains deeply emotional even today. India retains Sri Harmandir Sahib, the Golden Temple at Amritsar, but Gurdwara Nankana Sahib, the birthplace of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, and Gurdwara Darbar Sahib, Kartarpur, where Guru Nanak spent the final years of his life, remain on the Pakistani side of the new border. Two of Sikhism's holiest shrines were suddenly separated from the country that millions of Sikhs now called home. When we remember partition, we often remember the birth of two nations. But Punjab reminds us that history isn't written only on maps. It's written in abandoned homes, in silent railway stations, in villages that disappeared, and in sacred places left behind. A shoddy British lawyer drew a line in just a few weeks. Millions paid the price for generations. But amid all the chaos, there is one story we rarely remember. While politicians argued over borders and empires collapsed around them, Indian engineers, Kuvar Singh and Swarup Singh, looked beyond religion and politics. They looked at rivers. They understood that in Punjab, water would shape India's future just as much as borders would. Their timely intervention helped ensure that Ferozpur and its vital canal headworks remained with India. A decision that protected the irrigation lifeline of Punjab, safeguarded the interests of Bikaner, and strengthened India's long-term strategic position. History often celebrates the men who signed agreements, but sometimes nations are shaped by people who never sought the spotlight. Not kings or politicians, just engineers carrying maps who quietly helped change the map of India itself. Perhaps that's why nearly 8 decades later, 1947 is not just a chapter in Punjab's history. For countless families, it remains living memory. And for India, it is also a reminder that sometimes the greatest battles are not won on the battlefield, but on a drawing board. If you've stayed this far, I have a question for you.
What were the names of the 3 engineers who saved Punjab?
If you know the answer, write it down in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.